We have assisting me in the Opani Department, friend of the show, Robert Weiner, a Democratic strategist, columnist, former communications director for Clinton Drug Czar General Barry McCaffrey. He's also former chief of staff of the House Committee on Aging. By the way, Bob was also the communications director for both Congressman Rangel and Conyers of New York and Michigan, respectively. So he's been a very busy lad for a long time. Bob, good to have you back. How are you today?
It's a pleasure, Alan. And on your first subject, one of the feathers, worthless or not, is that I'm the media chair for USA Track and Field National Masters. So I'm really tied into this Boston event and have a lot of friends that I'm still worried about. I'm waiting to hear final answers that they aren't the ones that were hurt.
Still communication being somewhat impaired for a lot of folks trying to reach those of some concern or great concern, family members, loved ones, friends. Now,
Right.
Bob, the explosions were about 16 seconds apart at Copley Square.
Actually, when they timed it, it was between 8 and 10 seconds, but yes.
Oh, my bad. Okay, I'm looking at the Washington Post and other outlets.
They're
Outlets
off.
will go with you. But this was happening while some runners were still crossing the finish line. We understand the lion's share had already done so, or the lion's
That's right.
share of the leaders of the pack, if you
This
will.
mostly affected the spectators because, thank God, the person who did the bombing, and apparently was now known to be a time bomb, didn't realize that the max finishers were at the 3-hour mark because Boston is a qualifying race where only fast people really run, and so your tail end is much less than other marathoners where they are the mainstream. So they had very few runner stragglers, and what they really got were spectators, family, friends, and others standing around. They did not get the most runners.
So hence the argument that some have put forward, not the argument, but the observation some have put forward, and that is, of course, that is bad and as vile as it proved to be. It, strangely enough, could have been far worse.
That's right. Apparently what the guy did was Google marathon average finishing time and didn't know that Boston was a qualified race. That's correct.
Well, thank God for their ignorance at some
That's right.
level, right? Now, we understand 3 are dead. Originally it was 2. Also,
That's right.
an 8-year-old boy was taken out. Over 130 injured. Now, yesterday,
Right. Actually,
they were
it's about
saying
186 now that were injured. The number's rising. It's getting closer and closer to 200.
exponentially, so I can't turn around without that number skyrocketing
Right.
up. Well, as a matter of fact, you might recall yesterday the amputee count was about 10 now.
That's right.
The figure is much higher with no specific tally at all, unless you're aware of something. My understanding
No,
is
I
they
think
can't
you're
get
right.
their
It's
arms
getting
around it.
closer to 20 on that. It's just horrendous because what the guy did, or guys or gals or whoever it was they included BBs and sharp nails in the bomb. This was
Some
not
pellets.
This was not a toy bomb. This was a sophisticated set of bombs. And more and more, as Obama said, it is an act of terror. We don't know whether it's domestic or foreign or a nutcase, but it was clearly an act of terror.
A lot of folks have remarked that he was reluctant to reference the T word.
No, he wasn't.
When he made his address, even though at the time the FBI had already put out the message that indeed they were treating it like a terrorist attack.
Well, look, when you come out an hour after an event, it's nice to not have your head shoved up and be wrong. So he waited a day to be accurate. I think that's just fine.
Well, you at the same time on my show yesterday, right out of the gate, you were sort of in concurrence with Jane Harmon, who's now head of Woodrow Wilson Center, I believe it is.
I'm
but
allowed
she's
to
former.
be, but the president has to be accurate.
No, I realize that, but you got to wonder what kind of stretching of credulity would have been involved had the president done so, given that his own FBI had, before his own comments, already made the assertion that, in fact, it was a terrorist attack.
Well, I think he had to learn his own soundbite first, Alan, to be honest, which is that when bombs are involved and they go after innocent people, it's an act of terror. I think they just created that new definition.
Yeah,
I think that's what.
As you know, often. Yeah, exactly. Well, often during chaos, as you know, accuracy is the first victim. For instance, we were told that police were informing folks on the scene that cell phone service had been temporarily silenced to thwart remote detonation of other bombs, yet CNN and other outlets reported that had apparently not proven to be the case. Other outlets reported that some service was lost simply because of an overload of use in short time.
That's what it was, because I got through. I got through to my friend Jay. It took about 5 minutes, but I got through to him, and he called me back and told me that he was a half hour before the bomb, which is about where I estimated he would finish. You have met Jay. In fact, and so he was okay, but what I was worried about was that he was schmoozing at the finish line, which Jay likes to do, to talk to people, and could have been hurt that way, but he's fine.
Well, thank God for that.
Yep.
Thank God for everybody who was discovered as being okay, and I don't say that just to say it. I mean
Look,
it with everything I've got.
It's just... The most important thing here is Frank Shorter, my friend, the Olympic gold medalist, who he said in my White House farewell that I got him his job as U.S. Audit Chairman, and he came and spoke at it. He was just on CNN saying that and he was the gold medalist during Munich when the other bomb, when they had the terrorist attack there, and he was recalling memories. And he said, what you have to do is put in your mind that you nothing about the terrorism, and run as you're a free American, and not have it be paranoid, and not have it in our mind that these kinds of attacks take place when you're doing something as beautiful and natural as running. And
no. We can never let others dictate our universe in the name of whatever bizarre twisted agenda they put forward.
That was his message.
But Bob, even today, the Washington Post reasserted the same take. Quote, police told motorists to evacuate the city, and cell phone service was temporarily silenced to prevent remote detonation of devices, quote unquote. I'm wondering how many of these errors are attributable to actual mistakes versus bad faith assertions to be first with more information. And please understand, I'm not trying to besmirch the reputation of the Post. I have a lot of their folks on my show. We have Aaron Blake on. We have on a number of good folks. We have on Sean. Sean. Oh my God, his name is Sean Sullivan.
Hey, I've written
Sean Sullivan.
Post. I wrote.
We've had on Lori Montgomery. We've had a bunch of people on. So I'm not trying to beat them up, but I am saying so often during these kinds of tragedies, we have levels of disinformation that just seem to stretch credulity to the snapping point. Now, even today,
as opposed to when you have your Washington Times friends on, which never are wrong.
I'm actually quite comfortable with beating up everybody. You forget I'm a former national television correspondent, and as far as I'm concerned, we need to have universal standards of neutrality when presenting facts in a self-evident form, if for no other reason than to ensure that a bright line is always there separating reportage from commentary. That's just my belief. So I'm just curious, how often this happens when it's just a matter of bad faith versus
your question
simple
is the media
accidental.
ever wrong? Try Iraq.
No, the media has been wrong. Well, when you mention that, you're forgetting that both sides of the aisle were wrong on
I
Iraq.
don't disagree.
But not just from the advantage of whether or not there were weapons of mass destruction, but also from whether or not we were always justified in doing it because Saddam Hussein was required to comply with the terms of surrender as set forth at Safwan Air Force in March of 1991.
That was not
when he
the argument
violated
why
that.
we went in.